Florida. Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., representing Florida's 1st Congressional District, Congressman Matt Gaetz. Congressman, you represent Florida and the Panhandle area. Are you seeing a lot of refugees from down south in Florida and the eastern seaboard of Florida heading to the Panhandle to escape the storm?
Well, in Florida's Panhandle, not only have we seen our fellow Floridians from the peninsula come and join us in our hotel rooms and staying with family members, but we still have a number of families who are fleeing Hurricane Harvey from Texas who are in our area. And there are many places in my district in Florida that we've used for staging grounds for Hurricane Harvey. And now we've got those resources in place to be able to deploy when necessary after this hurricane hits the Florida peninsula. So in Florida, we train for this. We're prepared for this. It's terrible whenever a storm of this magnitude makes landfall in the United States, but in Florida, we've got great coordination with our local, state, and federal government players, and it looks like we're going to be hunkered down and ready to get through this together.
And the Panhandle could be a giant refugee camp for many weeks. So we don't know exactly how much damage this storm is going to do, yet we did hear in that report just a couple of minutes ago of many Floridians saying, hey, you know what, I might ride this thing out. What do you hear as a representative from Florida in your mind when you listen to your fellow Floridians saying, hey, I may ride this thing out, yet they are in the direct path of the storm and along the coast?
Well, you know, we are going to lose lives as a result of this hurricane. Let's not lose any more than necessary as a consequence of abject stupidity. If you're in an evacuation zone, you need to get out. You need to get moving. There is no reason in an evacuation zone to stay and try to ride this storm out. And for Floridians who may have ridden through a Category 1 or a Category 2 or a tropical storm, you need to know this is going to be a very different experience with this hurricane, and we need to get out of the way and not have any more loss of life than necessary. And folks who stay and put themselves in harm's way also put first responders in harm's way who have to go out and engage in valiant rescues. That will likely have to happen in some circumstances, but let's not make it any more frequent than it has to be.
This is a matter of common sense, and common sense hopefully will kick into anybody who's in an area that is at risk, which is a big swath of Florida right now. Now, on the federal level, of course, this week, the president struck a deal with largely Democrats, and of course, many Republicans went along with it, to fund hurricane aid. This is for Harvey, but also looking forward to Irma. I think it's in the tune of $15 billion. Of course, part of that deal was an increase in the debt ceiling, temporary, and a continuing resolution. How did you come down on this issue?
Yeah, I didn't vote to link the debt ceiling to hurricane aid. I voted for hurricane aid, but I voted against the Senate deal that came back to the House. And you know, the next generation is already going to have to pay for their own disasters. And so when we raise the debt limit to pay for our disasters, we're forcing those costs on the next generation as well. And, you know, only in Washington can you have about $100 billion in actual need, and can politicians turn that into over $1 trillion in spending authority? It's very irresponsible. I was very much opposed. That's not to say that I don't think we need a strong federal response when we have these disasters, but we certainly don't need to authorize over $1 trillion in spending to do it.
I called it a deal with the devil that the president chose to make, and I understand why President Trump made this move. He really wanted to get this hurricane aid through, and he probably believes that, you know, we need to keep the government running, although he has talked about shutting down the government. It might not be that bad, and I tend to agree with him. Shutting down portions of the government wouldn't be a bad thing. But when you talk about fiscal matters, as you just did, it is crucial that we have a debt ceiling. Number one, in my opinion, I want to hear your opinion, but it's crucial. Everyone needs to have a debt ceiling. You know, whether it's for your own checkbook or for a company or for the federal government, you need to have a maximum so you don't have too much debt. That's number one. And number two, continuing resolution. Here we go again. Whatever happened to regular order?
Well, I just offer a large amen to that. I serve on the House Budget Committee, and one of the things that frustrates me the most is that we will be $30 trillion in debt by the year 2030. It's outrageous. And what paves the way for more spending are the votes to raise the debt limit. And so politicians who claim to want balanced budgets but then go and vote to raise the debt limit really are being rather disingenuous. That's why I'm not voting to raise the debt limit, and why really what we've got to do is tackle some of this entitlement spending that is hollowing out our country from the inside. I know all the focus today is on our fellow Americans in need, but all the FEMA money in the world won't save this country if we go to $30 trillion in debt by the year 2030, and that's why we've absolutely got to start cutting spending. And there are a few parts of the government, a few unconstitutional federal agencies that I'd like to shut down forever.
I'll give you an amen on that one. And unfortunately, the debt is going to be around long after Hurricane Irma blows through and we repair the damage in Florida, which we know we will do because we are Americans and we are benevolent and we care about each other. We know it's going to happen. But the fiscal side is very, very troubling for our future. And Congressman, I'd like to pin you down right now. Would you come back on the program if your chief of staff allows it next week? We can follow up not only on this conversation, but also with what has happened in Florida next week?
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Okay, Congressman, thank you.